Welcome, everybody, to our Lift Up Women in Life Sciences live event today. We're back this month and we're talking about unleashing inner strength, fostering confidence, and self empowerment. And I'm so excited today because we've got three fabulous key speakers that are within the life sciences space: Olivia, Henny, and Stefanie, that have built and developed phenomenal careers up the career ladder within life sciences and are really going to be talking to us about their journey and their confidence, self empowerment, how they've built all of this, and some solutions to this throughout the live broadcast. But first of all, what I want to do for those of you that are completely new to joining us today, I'm going to talk to you a little bit about Lift Up. So it was around 2022, so coming up to 2 years ago, that female ambassadors within Fraser Dove International here, we came together and we looked at how we could leverage off of all the wonderful relationships we've got with women in the industry to really help connect, champion, and inspire other women in the industry to continue to grow and develop and close that gender gap. But also for those that are in academia and looking to transition into the industry for the first time is really, really important. So I think this is the 23rd live broadcast now that I've done. We've had over 50,000 global views, over 42 key speakers. So hugely grateful for everybody that has been a part of this journey and still excited about where it's going. But yeah, so a little intro into me for those of you that have not met me or been on these broadcasts before. I am Louise Williams. I'm the MD here at Fraser Dove International. FDI is a life sciences executive search talent consultancy, and I've been in the business now for 3 years. Prior to that, 20 years in staffing, 10 years in life sciences. Hugely passionate about the industry that we're in and making a difference. And on top of that, I have got a 7-year-old daughter and a 3-year-old son that keep me super busy outside of work. So I am super excited to bring in Olivia into this live broadcast today. But before I just bring Olivia in, what I'd love to say to everybody here that's dialing in at the moment is please say hello in the comments. Get interactive. That's where this networking works at its best, and we can get anywhere 100 plus comments by the end of the live session. So please keep them flowing. Say where it is you're dialing in from, your name, maybe what specialized area you work within, and where you're sitting globally. Where are you? Where are you based? And then throughout the live broadcast, what we have got is kind of towards the second half, a live interactive session with the key speakers. So we always ask if you've got any questions specifically, pop a Q in front of your question because it'll help me navigate that throughout the comments. So keep them coming through. But without further ado, I'm going to bring in Olivia. So lovely to have you here today, Olivia. If you wouldn't mind doing an introduction to the audience for me.
Sure. Thank you, Louise. Thank you for having me and super excited to be here. So I'll try and do the elevator pitch. Born and raised in Austria, living in Switzerland. I'm a physician by training and added a bachelor in economics when I started working in the pharmaceutical industry. I'm also a trained coach, soon to get my certification, fingers crossed, focusing on women in business, specifically on career development / transition, authentic leadership, and work-life integration. I've been in the pharmaceutical industry for over 15 years. I've worked in organizations of different sizes and different functions, ranging from patient services, medical affairs, marketing, and sales at local levels, at international levels, mostly in specialty neurology, oncology, rare diseases, launching numerous products in very highly competitive markets with high unmet need, building, restructuring, and developing high performing teams. Currently, I'm leading the medical team of the DACH Cluster, so Germany, Austria, and Switzerland, at Kyowa Kirin. And alongside, the big business focus, I've always been strongly involved in coaching and mentoring activities within the organizations that I've worked at and within my network even. So, some time ago, I had the opportunity to also get involved in relaunching and leading the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Network at my organization, where I sit on a steering committee and lead the mental health community, previously led the women's community. So that's something that I'm very, very passionate about. And just in general, I think what has always driven me throughout, whatever I did, and whichever role I was, which has kept me going forward, is really the connection to staying true to myself, to my values, and paired with a really, really strong desire to have an impact, however big or small, that it can be. And currently, that desire to make a difference is really geared towards an ambition of improving human health today and tomorrow by redefining the scope of patient centricity in order to put patient health, health equity, and sustainability at the heart of the healthcare business.
Wow, what an introduction, Olivia. I feel like that just flowed out. Really inspiring career background. I know Kyowa Kirin very well, a great organization to work for. And you know what? I can just feel that passion. And I think so many people that join us in this Lift Up community group are hugely passionate, not just about the connection, the people, the networking, but about the science and the therapeutic areas and the patient centricity side. So I think it's lovely to hear that from you as well, Olivia. So thanks for joining us. And I've got Henny as well coming to the stage. If you wouldn't mind doing an introduction for us.
Hello, hello. Well, I would say I am a bit blown away, Olivia, now before I'm starting. But nice to thank you for having me. Very nice seeing you again. So I'll quickly introduce myself. So my name is Henny. My last name is not pronounceable with anyone outside of Holland. So just say Henny. No Henry, which happens a lot. Henny. You can also call me Jenny. I also listen to that. I am the CCO, the Chief Commercial of Adragos. Now Adragos Pharma, a CDMO, small molecule CDMO in Munich, for 7 months now. So that is my current, basically, I would not say the majority of my time, because I also have two small children, almost 11-year-old boy and a 7-year-old girl, Samuel and Lissy. And they are and I also have a partner. So I don't know, in terms of priorities, it's always a little bit like the balance. No, how do we bring that? I'm based in Barcelona. I'm originally from Holland. I'm Dutch, as you probably can hear. I am in the industry now for 17 years. I have no pharmaceutical background. I'm actually kind of proud of that, because I learn every day something, because the industry is so complex, which I love. So I'm fully commercial. I started in business development, licensing, sales, some product development, some global business management, smaller organizations. Then I moved into corporate, and then I worked for one of the largest CDMOs, Swiss, very organized. And the last step was then, or not the last, my current step, because I'm 41, so I don't see this at the end, at least not yet. And I am very passionate, basically mostly, and I'm now in the industry for so long that I can say, yeah, I really enjoy being a part of the life science or the CDMO or the pharma industry, mostly because of the complexity, and also because you can really make a change. And I think that to me is very important. And and building the team, and making that change, that is what I'm passionate about. So I hope that
Thank
was
you.
yeah. I maybe
No.
worked on my one-liner, but that is.
Oh no, it's yeah. I mean, we've spoken a lot anyway, and your background's fascinating, and your new role at the moment very exciting. So thank you so much.
Thank
It's a
you very
pleasure
much.
to have you
You're
today.
welcome.
And yeah, we're going to bring in Stefanie. So last but certainly not least, Stefanie, if you'd like to do as an introduction.
Well, I'm just like very enamored by how you put together the panel today. It was such fantastic women, and this is what I love about these sessions and the kind of monthly calls that you guys put together, because I have a very different background, very non-traditional background, and it's lovely to see actually a panel here of similar. So thank you for having me. My name is Stefanie Brown Hawkins, and originally from America, West Coast, California, but I've been in Europe for the past, I don't know, 15-ish years, apart from a small stint these last 3 years in San Francisco, but we've just moved back. And I've pretty much spent my entire career, almost 20 years, within the life science sector. So started out as a research oncology scientist, and was doing that for quite a few years before transitioning to commercial consulting, and somehow landed in finance. I guess that's a scientist's love for data and numbers and analysis. So I've been pretty much more or less in finance for the last better part of a decade across many large and mid cap. And I've been across the world and doing a lot of international and regional roles as well. And so kind of have a wide breadth of experience, which kind of non-traditional probably to my fellow finance counterparts. But other than that, I have to say, just it's a glorious day here in London. It's been sunny. It's been fabulous. So people ask me, why'd you leave California and why'd you come back to England? But on days like this, it's absolutely fabulous. So
It is, yeah.
no regret there. So anyways, thank you for having me.
Thank you, Stephanie. And look, you're absolutely right. I mean, great story background, and this whole kind of fostering confidence, self-empowerment. I mean, from relocating from one continent to another, to all three of you, describing this non-conventional route to the levels in which you're in business now is amazing. From finance to marketing to sales. I mean, the level of confidence you're going to have to, find that inner strength and self-belief, and to guide yourself into these different areas of business, but ultimately it's got you to where you are today is inspiring. So massive well done. I want to just acknowledge to the audience, because lots of people are dialing in. So we've got Jennifer from Glasgow. Thank you so much for joining us, Jennifer. We've got Deborah from New Jersey. I'm sure we've had Deborah Webster actually on here before. Christina James from Northamptonshire. We've got Libette. Libette's a regular on our community broadcast. So lovely to have you back, Libette. We've got Maria in Barcelona. We've got Vanja from Bosnia. I mean, Francesca from Milan. We've got a real global reach right now, and I do apologise if I can't get through to everybody. Oh, we've got somebody down the road from me in Reading. So thank you so much. If you missed the very beginning, I'm just going to pop in here and say that throughout this interactive broadcast, if there's any questions that you've got for the key speakers, pop in a queue in the front of your question just so I can navigate through the comments. But don't be shy, pop them in. It's always great to hear from you, and keep building that network and saying hello. So I'm going to kick off with a question first. Before we roll straight into the topic, but ultimately, why was it important for you to be a part of the Lift Up community group? I guess we can kind of throw this one in and actually maybe blend these together as to what does confidence and self-empowerment mean to you. So I'll come to you, Olivia, first. Why was it important to join today, and ultimately, what does confidence and self-empowerment mean?
Sure, thanks. Well, I mean, as I mentioned before, look, I've always been passionate about basically at the end of the day getting together with a bunch of amazing women to drive tangible change, and in a way that lifts each other up. And I mean, lift up, I mean, that's exactly what you're striving to do. So really that aspect of connecting and championing each other to close the gender gap, to address the challenges that women face in business, that's just something that I've always been hugely passionate about. And so was very glad when you reached out, and really happy to be here. What does confidence empowerment mean to me? Okay, so we've got, well, okay, I'll try to make it short. We could probably go on for hours here. I think especially, confidence, I've been thinking about this. I think it's such a tricky one, because we often feel that, somebody is confident or isn't, as if it were kind of this big natural gift you were born with or not. And yes, I believe that some people are maybe, more inclined or brought up in a way to be more confident, but it's not something static, it's not you have it or you don't. So I think first and foremost, it's important to realize that, and to understand that it's something you can work on. I mean, think about it. Even the most confident person, you'll feel so insecure at times in a context that potentially triggers you, maybe on a bad day, the right person saying the wrong thing. So that doesn't per se, make somebody a person without confidence. It makes them human. So I think to take away that pressure, I think it's important to realize the fluidity of that of that concept. And for me, it comes from a place of believing in yourself no matter what, whilst, and I think that's the important part, still knowing yourself well enough to remain self-critical when appropriate. Because you don't also want to be that person, who thinks they know it all and actually doesn't, confidence has nothing to do with that. But for example, you can make a mistake. You can own up to that. You can learn from it and still believe in yourself. And that for me is even the ultimate show of confidence, in my opinion. So there's something that I also think is very important to remember. So a lot of people, I feel, think that confidence means fearless courage. No doubts, no questions whatsoever. And that's just, well, that's not human, and we all have fears, we all have doubts, we all have worries. I like to remember something that I read in Brené Brown's book. I don't know if people know her or not. I can highly recommend all her talks, her books. Absolutely, take a look. But she wrote in one of her books, courage is fear walking. And for me, the same holds true for confidence. It's accepting that sometimes you'll feel fear, sometimes you'll feel doubt, but you'll be uncomfortable. But it's about, as one of my previous managers actually once said, it's about feeling comfortable with being uncomfortable. And I think, on the confidence piece, and I'll really quickly touch on empowerment, and then I'll promise I'll be finished. And as I said, I could go on for days, but
Yeah.
Olivia.
I do also think, there's that misconception that it always needs to come from, ourselves. And yes, sometimes that pep talk in front of the mirror, that will help you. Sometimes you'll get up in the morning and you'll, think you can move mountains. But sometimes you'll also just need a little help from your family and friends, your coworkers, or whomever it is. And that's okay. Sometimes it takes a village, and it's
Yeah.
okay to get support, to get you back into that space where you trust and you believe in yourself.
Yeah.
And the empowerment one, look, I'm a trained coach. I've got lots of clients who come to coaching. They feel stuck in some shape or form. I work with them to get unstuck. How do we do that? We work with perspectives. And what happens when you work with perspectives is that it opens up choice. Clients shift from a place to where they thought they had no way out to seeing multiple perspectives and options and realizing they are at choice to decide which perspectives and which according actions they want to take.
In
And that for
control.
me is the sense of empowerment. Realizing and understanding that no matter the situation, you are at choice as to how you will react to a situation and what you make of it.
Yeah, wow. I absolutely love that. Thank you, Olivia, for sharing that. And that whole opening on the confidence piece, I hadn't really ever thought of it like that, but I think you're absolutely right. Where this thought process with people, sometimes it's kind of either born with the confidence or not born with it. And sometimes you can speak to somebody and they can turn around and say, "Oh, I'm not very confident in doing that, so I'm going to leave it, or I'm not going to bother, or I'm not going to," when actually it's kind of like, no, confidence is something you can gain, you can get better at, you can learn, you can. So it's kind of not being defeatist almost, and giving up before you've even maybe started. So that's a really interesting reflection point there that you said. Henny, I'll come to you with this question too. So yeah, why join Lift Up, and ultimately what's your thoughts on the confidence and self-empowerment piece?
Yeah, thank you. So I think it took me a while because I am Dutch, right? So from the Dutch, I think equality is just there. It's a given. I don't think we realize. I do believe like it took me a while to realize like how privileged we are with having the education and not having the barrier to grow. No, it's more like yes, this is what you do. You go to university. If you're it's a part of it's our education system. It's
Yeah.
almost free. So I think there you realize like with time like okay, I am very very privileged. I had a very strong foundation, so I also feel like in that case I was very empowered. So initially I was more like feminist is not really like why always talk about women, and you just speak up your mind. But then I realized like especially when I started traveling and seeing more cultures and seeing more that it is that we are behind. And unfortunately like as the more I grow the more I was growing in my career, the more I realized like there's even less women. The higher you get, the less women they're with you. And I was also saying that yesterday to you, like I am so not used to being in a group with women because I'm always with men. So
Yeah.
and I love it. I love it because my marketing team is only female, so I'm completely loving it. But it is something which is like yeah, if it's not me, who's going to speak up for women then? So I do feel like it's a bit of my duty. So I embrace that. I would say like 3-4 years ago, I started to feel like okay, this is my moment. I need to do this now. I also have a daughter, so also for her. So I feel like yeah, that is the reason why I was like okay, I think this is a bit of my my task in my or
Yeah.
one of the things on my to do list. I prioritize it. And if you say like for me, for what is confidence, and also there is like I think what you were saying, it's natural. I think I'm lucky because I was like you said, my basis is pretty strong. I was raised in a way where it was confidence or nothing basically. So it was the way I was, it was not like oh you're less, no, come on, why can you not do it, right? It was, so I was really pushed like that. So I feel generally very, very confident. And I was thinking about what you said, because my dad, for example, he said to me like, but everybody goes to the toilet. So why do you think that someone is better than you? And I have this quote in my mind, like when I was nervous, I was like, okay, he also uses the toilet. Maybe once is gold and the other ones. So this for me is always like, okay, fine. What I think is most important here is that also knowing that you don't always need to know it all. So it's very fine to say, I'm sorry,
Yeah.
but I'll come back to you. I don't know it. And
Mm.
if you're not a chemist or a pharmacist or have any idea about chemistry like me, it's also very like liberating in a meeting where people are talking. and they all have their PhDs. And I'm like, I'm sitting there and saying, look, if you want to know anything about strategy, about marketing, about sales, about how to position, I'm the one. But don't ask me anything about this. I'll bring in my technical experts. And I think this for me was like, okay, I also had to learn that, because initially I thought, oh, you can't say that. Yes, you can, and it's fine. So
Yeah.
I think that was my take on, and I'm
Well,
confident.
no, very authentic as well, Henny. Thank you for sharing that. And Stephanie, same question to you.
I think, I mean, it's very hard to follow Olivia and Henny, I have to say, and I kind of resonate with a lot of it, because the one thing, so the reason for joining this community, and I'm lucky, I think this is maybe 4 or 5 months in, is just the fact that I've met some brilliant women. I've had coffees with a few, and it's been terrific. So knowing that other women are facing similar issues, there's kind of similar either career path moves, team build issues, just problem solving in the workplace, that you don't have to feel like you have to have the answer yourself and derived it from scratch on your own. And
Yeah.
I've met some wonderful women on here that are, hey, I tried that and this worked better, just from my experience, take my 2 cents, and great, yes, I'll happily accept your 2 cents. So it's just fantastic, because sometimes you get in a lot of, I think you mentioned chief, right? It's very sector agnostic, where I personally, I love this sector. I love life sciences.
Yeah.
I'm a scientist at heart. So I love personally just other life science passionate minded females, especially. And I think, Henny, when you're talking about the confidence and self-empowerment piece, I mean, I can't even tell you how many times I've sat in a room and I am the only female at the table, where sometimes they're like tokenly have to ask you a question just because it's awkward and you're the only one in the room, and you're sitting there going, I have a lot of ideas actually that you haven't mentioned, and I'd actually like to have a very pertinent conversation right now. So, I mean, similar, I was very lucky to grow up in a family that pushed and didn't ever feel that because being a woman, or we're all strong characters, and it was always very supportive, and there was always a push to do more, do better, be your best self. But I do agree, some days it's not all or nothing. I think that's what really resonated. It's not a light switch, it's a light switch you kind of flip on and on. Some days are better than others. It just depends on personally what's going on around you. So it's about the community and the support and the network and the habits that you build. Yeah. So the self-reflection, just everybody has meditation, all the different parameters that work for you to make sure that you're checking in with yourself and you're on that continual path, and that you're not straying from who you really are at the core, because you've let voices in an outside world tell you you're too different, or tell you you're not what you should be, or tell you that, I got told in a role very long time ago that if I wanted to be at the senior level, I needed to change who I was, and I needed to fit in basically with all the men. So that, I knew that wasn't the organization for me. And shortly thereafter, it was, not a difficult choice to find a better place to go. But I'm lucky enough at the core to know that I'm not going to change what I can bring to the table and the good I can do in this sector, which, for me, I'm not selling widgets. I'm actually wanting to better society and help patients. So, for me, I know that at my core. So, part of joining the journey and being on here with you guys is more around how to do that for everybody else that's at the beginning of their career, the middle of their career, facing, challenges, facing a moment of despair, because it is a moment in a long career path. It's not an absolute. So how do you pull people through to say, actually, take a minute, have a chat, know who you are at your core, and keep going? So
Yeah, I absolutely love that, Stephanie. And I think that this community group is about, like you just said, connecting, but also there's this real humble element where I think that, 20 years ago, to be so authentic and to speak up about challenges was often just not, it was just never talked about in a workplace. And I think that, what this community has provided is people to connect, but feel more comfortable with talking about some of these challenges ultimately, right? Not to be here to moan, but it's to try and think about the solutions and to try and think about, well, what can I add to my toolkit that's actually going to help me advance and help me get through some of these situations. So I love that. I'm just going to dive into the audience here because Jadine said, I love that we all have choices. I think that was Olivia in regards to your comment. And Christine here, confidence is something you have. It's not something you have, it is something you do, which I couldn't agree more. Christine, thank you for sharing. I don't know if you know Nicole, Henny, but Nicole's joining in with some thumbs up. Love that. We got Maria, go women teams and the women power.
Love
So
it.
yeah, I'm loving the support.
Yeah.
But look, let's throw out a bit of a potential controversial one, but let's just bring it to the table. So what specific challenges do you think women face? And I think we could kind of keep this a little bit
I'm
on the
gonna
topic
open
of
the window
potentially
first.
confident
Because I need
self-employment, because we could, this could be
Hmm.
we could go right down a rabbit hole with this one. But thoughts, Olivia, in regards to this?
Yeah, definitely. We could go down into huge rabbit hole and talk for days on end,
I know.
probably. But where my mind went to immediately is the microaggressions that women face in the workplace, because it's something very tangible. I think that most women, experience on a day-to-day basis. Um, I think, as you've probably noticed, I love quotes, I love reading. So the McKinsey Women in the Workplace report, I can highly recommend that one. That goes into a lot of detail around it. But there's something which has always fascinated me, which is called the tightrope effect. Now, what's that? So basically, I'm going to try and explain that quickly and simply, is that in our society, we consciously or unconsciously associate leadership qualities with more masculine traits. And I say that very carefully because there are more than enough studies to show that these traits are actually not gender related, but the perception in the workplace and society remains the same. So coming to that typo effect, it's basically, the phenomenon that when women portray leadership qualities or skills that are perceived as more masculine, they pay a social cost for that. And I would bet that a lot of women in the workplace, at least once in their career, have experienced this and know what I'm talking about. And a very basic example is that, women are constantly torn between being told that they should be more confident and step up. And when they do, they are being seen as pushy, as arrogant, as demanding, and so on. And so for me, it's really about, how can we break that narrative? And yes, there's an important change that needs to happen in society, but I think we also have a role to play ourselves. And it goes back to the confidence piece. If we're able to reframe confidence to the ability of believing in yourself, whilst knowing yourself well enough to remain open, to remain reflected, to remain self critical when appropriate, versus
Yeah.
just rigorously trying in a very rigid way, trying to be right no matter what in order to seem like you know it. I think it goes back to,
Yeah.
Henny, what you were saying. It's fine to not know, that's okay. But whatever the driver of that may be, confidently stepping into your confidence, without worrying about coming off as arrogant or pushy,
Yeah.
because you trust and you have your own truth. So I think it's really that understanding between, being what is confident versus cocky, what is self-critical versus self-doubt. And these lines are so fine, and societal norms and gender biases, all of that kind of muddies the water even more.
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, it comes down to self-awareness for me. If you have that self-awareness, you don't allow others to drive your narrative.
Oh, I love that.
Hmm.
Others to drive you now. That what a powerful term that is. I think this is a really difficult thing, though, isn't it, in the workplace? And
Yeah.
it's that balance between being confident and not being overconfident, potentially as a woman.
Yeah.
Um, what I mean, what advice would you give from a toolkit perspective then, maybe for individuals to use to support them? You talked about self-reflection. Could maybe a bit of advice be, whether it's on a monthly or a quarter, it's kind of getting individuals to take a bit of mindfulness out of their day, once a month, and have a bit of self-reflection on um, what they've gone through, behaviors, what's worked, what's not worked? Could that be something that maybe somebody could install or instill, or could it be a sponsor or a mentor, or maybe using somebody in that regard, do you think?
I think any of those can work if you,
Mm-hmm.
first of all, yes, if you take the time to do it, and
Mm-hmm.
if you have the open mindset of, I am prepared to listen, I am prepared to ask for feedback and to
Mm-hmm.
take that on board and to, make of it what serves me, right?
Yeah.
So I think it's about making the time, but also
Yeah.
keeping the open mindset and being willing to listen.
Listen. Yeah. Yeah. No, I love that. And Henny, I'll come to you with this question. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, so I went a little bit of like for myself. Now, when I look at myself, like what do I see as my personal biggest challenge is that I feel like I always feel guilty. So I'm not like I do things where I should feel guilty about, but like like it comes down to the work-life balance, right? Like if I work too much, then it's
Mhm.
like I miss I'm a bad parent. If I am if I don't if I'm late for a meeting because I was in a traffic jam, then because I was dropping my kids off to school, then I'm a bad then I'm a bad manager. So I think that is the most of the but it's all self-imposed. So it's not that anyone is going to tell me, oh, well, you're such a bad mom now. No, I am not. And I feel like this is one thing I really would like to, and I wanted to mention this, is that I think like we women, we should not challenge each other. And in a bad way, right? I think we should support each other more, because I was mentioning it yesterday as well. It is already so hard to work and make sure that you manage everything in balance. And if you also have to manage all the critique and the comments that you get as a female leader from other women, then it's like I don't even know where to start anymore. Like, oh, my hair is not long enough. Oh, my nails are not done. Oh, you should not use Botox. Oh no. Oh, you work all the time. Oh, and there's all these critiques. Like I always say, like when I come back from maternity leave, I always use the same example. Like there was no male colleague asking me what happened with my kids, because they were assuming that the baby was taken care of because it was 6 months. But all of my female gave me this super guilt feeling, like, oh, how about your baby? Like, oh, you're only a good mom if you leave, if you start working after your kid goes to high school or something else. Like these kind of critiques, I really, really wouldn't. I really think like we should not do that anymore. So that for me is like as a challenge. Like, please don't challenge other women, embrace other women, support them, and especially the younger and the people who are struggling more, like who are not so privileged. Like,
Yeah.
please make the most of them. And yeah, and if you're talking about like what kind of the things that I am using, so if you're, and like Olivia was saying, like there's these tricks, no, like you were saying, your monthly mindfulness, no, do it
Mm-hmm.
daily. Use your
Mm-hmm.
gratitude journal. Write
Yeah.
it every morning. Write it There's these kind of things. Like it doesn't take any time, but it helps you, your perspective. You feel good. You feel strong, and yeah, and
Yeah.
then hopefully less guilty.
Yeah, 100%. So many important messages in there, Henny. I completely agree. And I think, culturally, country by country, continent by continent, even to a degree, there are a lot of those challenges. So I think that you're delivering a really important message there around supporting each other. I also think that individually, from an accountability perspective, this kind of negative self-talk is almost something that we can try to take a little bit of control individually. And I'm exactly the same.
Yeah,
I've gone through the last 6 months, I've had to take my daughter into breakfast club, and like I have to do it at a certain time, like a drop off at the earliest point, and it gives me literally 45 minutes to get to work on time, and I'd be flooring it just thinking I need to get there for that time because I don't want to be late. Now I know that actually, what's the worst that's going to happen if I'm 5
yeah,
minutes
right.
over? Like, really, all I end up doing is
Yeah,
stressing myself out, and then in the
Yeah,
grand scale of
exactly.
it, it's 5 minutes, and it's life. Like, I've got to do it, I've got to take it to breakfast. So I do think that, and there is there's a lot of sometimes negative talk that can go on, and sometimes you've got to take accountability of shutting that door and shutting that out.
yeah.
So yeah, really important messages
And
there.
yeah, and you're and also like positive modes, you forget them. Your mind only remembers critique, which is the worst. That's why it's like you don't a compliment just fades, and all the critique is like, oh yeah, my board meeting went great, but, and I'm like, come on, you know, I'm doing it myself again. Like I'm
Yeah.
spiraling. So
Above the line thinking, a lady, Anna
I
Mosley, who's the
I
UK
would
coach.
add to that. I would add to that. I
Yeah.
think there's even sometimes when, there's a positive feedback and you go even to the extreme, oh, they're just saying that to be nice. I mean, I've been there,
oh,
I'll be honest. Yes, yes, I've been there. We're like,
Yeah.
you're not entirely happy.
Yeah.
So you're like, well, maybe they're only saying that because they want to be nice. Been
Yeah.
there.
You want to
Yeah.
disqualify it to make sure
Mm.
that you're not being
Yeah.
you're
It's not
humble
the it's
enough or
Yeah.
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah,
exactly.
there's a UK coach here. In fact, I spoke to her early on today, Anna, and she talks about below the line thinking, getting above the line in terms of your
Mm.
thinking, your mindset. She talks about negative lenses and just how you can view things in a positive or a negative way, literally the same image or situation. So I think that's kind of touching upon what you were saying there. But Stephanie, before we hop on to the next question, what are your thoughts with this one?
I mean, it's such a broad gamut. I think if you polled everybody on this call, you would get, if you polled you get a different answer from every woman depending where they are in their career stage. I mean, the beauty of this conversation is that the more we're open and speaking about things that we've experienced, then we're in this together, and the more people are hearing our stories and saying, hey, actually that happened to me. So I mean, in terms of specific challenges, I've had everything from, I'm more of an extrovert, so you're too extroverted, so rein it in. You're being too concise, you're not concise enough, you're between the inappropriate behaviors of people or comments, or I mean, just even around the room. I mean, how many women have gone into a meeting or gone into work where you're thinking about what you're wearing, or what you're like, I think Henny, you mentioned like your hair, like you're like, oh my God, I didn't brush my hair today. And it's like, what guy sits there and thinks about this stuff?
Nobody.
No one
Yeah.
ever, or do you see guys standing around having a cup of tea going, oh, I really like that blue suit. I've got one too. Where'd you get yours? I mean, never happened,
Well, they
right?
will compare their watch. They will compare their watch. I mean,
Sure.
yeah.
But I do think the kind of double standard bias that's,
Yeah.
exists culturally in society, and then we have to internalize it to say, is that me? Is that not me? How do I work around that? Or how do I navigate the dynamic of the organization that I'm in? And you manage to find some good allies, which I have in the past. I've been very lucky to have some fantastic allies, but I've also seen the flip side of that and had some really negative and bad male leaders that I've worked for. And it's just it's progressed, but I think us having these conversations and pulling it forward, and saying, like Henny, we support each other enough, or the self-reflections, like it helps to build that stronger community to then shift a larger conversation, at least hopefully within this sector, and then maybe we can just influence all the other sectors within.
Would be
Yeah.
nice if we we are usually the slowest sector, so it would be. Okay.
We've got some great things coming through from the audience. Thank you, Stephanie, for that. I just thought I'd dive in here. We've got Rennie from South Carolina, 25 years in the industry. Thanks for joining us today. Recently laid off and considering consulting for a small mid-sized company. Big decision for her. It's brave. Definitely go and do it. Want to get past the fear and insecurities of a new venture. Love the conversation so far. Very helpful. We've got Andrew here, our CCO, who's put be unapologetically you. Love that. Always keep it authentic. And we've got Simon.
Can I just say on the first one that you mentioned about doing something for
Renee.
so long and thinking about going small.
Yeah.
Renee, thank you for that, because I did exactly that, and it was fascinating. It was such an interesting experience. And then you're in an organization for a long time, you know what to expect, the people, kind of the environment, but then you get into an environment in consulting where you're seeing many different organizations and many different people, and it just builds your your EQ and your SQ and your ability to kind of interact with senior leaders and mid-level leaders, and it'll be a wonderful enhancement. So I hope you embrace the opportunity. Just 2 cents from.
Oh, lovely. No, I'm sure she's very much appreciative of that. And we've got Simon. I believe part of it is about encouraging consistent appreciation amongst the team, which leads to increased level of trust and performance. Agree, Simon. Thank you for sharing that. We've got Liliana. How do you deal with aggressive? This is an interesting one. So, how do you deal with aggressive micromanaging female leaders who try to hide their lack of self-confidence and bullying behavior?
I'm
Oh.
I'm I'm I'm, I'm
I mean,
Who wants to
honestly,
take
Get
who
her
wants to
fired,
take
I
this one?
say.
happy
Go
to
Stephanie,
ahead,
do
jump
you want
in
to dive
here.
in?
Yeah, I had a recent experience, and I will say what's interesting is I thought the strategy and the vision was great of this leader, and I thought the team that they were building was fantastic, but there was something underlying underneath that was causing kind of what you're
Mhm.
describing in this chat.
Yeah.
There's always usually something fundamental at the core that's derailing them from actually who they are and who they want
Mhm.
to be. So the question is if you can navigate that environment well enough to understand and
What
potentially
that is.
unpick what's
Yeah.
driving that behavior, because I've never found that. I mean, maybe they do exist, but I've never found that like women intentionally mean to be this
Mhm.
way. It's
Mhm.
usually something environmental that they're
Mhm.
just not able to be either self-aware or to
Yeah.
be able to
Yeah.
kind of say, oh my God, is that how I'm coming across and I'm leading? Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
if you can able to, talk wider, understand a bit more about delivery or goals or, scope or what's on their mandate, what's on their plate that they're trying to
Mhm.
achieve that's just not working, and having as many open-ended conversations and questions that you can. Sometimes you can't have those conversations, so you need to think of the right appropriate route for you, but there's always usually something that's underpinning that
Yeah.
behavior.
That
So
behavior. Yeah, and everybody's human, right? And I think
yeah.
sometimes, and I'm not actually advocating for that kind of behavior. I can appreciate it's very upsetting and can be disruptive for the person that is receiving that. Um, but I think that sometimes we do have to accept that we see people in a workplace environment, and everyone's actually got a story or potentially a challenge outside of work, and sometimes that can sometimes get forgotten. And like you said, maybe if you can get to the point of maybe unpicking, and if you can have a one-to-one or a sit-down conversation and try and understand that individual's perspective, or why as to that that behavior's there, then that could help.
the
Yeah, so
only thing I would
hopefully.
add to that
Mhm.
maybe is, and I fully agree, you need to give people chances, you need to understand, right? But what I've also had the experience, oftentimes we're a lot kinder to other people than we are to ourselves, right?
Yeah.
And whether it is, bad leadership behavior or bad culture in an organization, whatever it is, you need to also be very clear, where is your breaking point and where is the line that you do not want to cross? Because at that point it becomes unhealthy, for yourself.
Very
So
true.
to stay very connected also to what are my absolute no-goes and what are my, okay, let me try and understand and have those conversations. But again, where is that breaking point? Because then at some point, maybe it's also just really time to move on. At least that's the experience that I've made.
Yeah,
The non-negotiables is a very good
Exactly.
call out.
Yeah.
I like that. I like that. The line as well, kind of line in the sand. Um, we are, for any of the audience that can stick with us for another 5-10 minutes, because we haven't even touched upon some of the questions that have come through the community. And the last time that the four of us were talking, I mean, we were on the call for an hour,
Oh, it's
weren't we? We could
brilliant.
have kept. I feel like we've made good friends here. But yes, so sorry. I'm just trying to pull this to a bit of a conclusion, but there was one really outstanding question that I think we talked about. um, I like this one here. What would you tell your younger self when it comes to facing challenges with confidence and leading in an empowerment way? So yeah, what bit of advice? Olivia, I'll come to you first.
Oh, so many things that I'd love to tell my younger self. Breathe.
Yeah.
Sounds simple, but just breathe. I guess, allow yourself to feel whatever you feel, but understand that, the emotions, the challenges, the experiences that you're going through, they don't define you. And you have the power to make the choice that aligns with who you are and what
Mm,
you value and how you want to live your life. I think that's kind of the first one. And then, be courageous, take charge of your career and your journey, because nobody else will. Take a risk, learn from failures, get comfortable with being uncomfortable. That was one of the best advices that I ever got from a previous manager. That's where growth happens. And most importantly, and I know it's going to sound super cliche, but it's so true, no matter how confident and empowered you are, there will be times where you doubt, there will be times where others will bring you down, but don't stop believing in yourself. And I think, as we saw in the chat, be unapologetically you.
Yeah, I love that. What a phrase. Thank you, Olivia. And Henny, what are your thoughts with this question?
Well, I think I would definitely say make sure that you don't sign under these conditions when you marry. That's a bad joke. That's one, but that's not related to my. But okay, sorry for that. They just finalized. So, but no, I mean, what I would say is like do exactly the same thing as you did, but realize the value that you bring. And I think this is something I was absolutely not aware what the value was. I was just going like, and it was successful, and that's also why you went up, but it was because I was literally replying to my BlackBerry in the middle of the night when I went smoking. So you get the point. So I was like, just do exactly the same thing. Enjoy as well the ride. I think that's also what I did. I always try, and I am so grateful for that, because I've traveled and with work I combine it, and I have friends. I can say good friends all over the world, more in the Europe and also in the MENA region, and I feel so lucky. So I think also that's like enjoy the growth, and but don't stop and take the opportunity when it comes. And I think this is don't go the easy way. The easy way is, your comfort zone is not going to bring you there. So if you get an opportunity and you feel like you can't, you can. And
Yeah.
if it feels uncomfortable, is it because it's new? Is it because you think you cannot do it? Or is it because you simply can't become a chemist like me? Usually it is like, just because you have to realize like you can do it. Focus and go for it, and focus and take also, and this is one of the things I would really love, that I told myself, like the power of meditation, the power of this gratitude journal, as I said before, and also like listen to this podcast and learn and keep on
Yeah.
learning and empowering yourself. So that was
Yeah.
my.
Love that. Really, really inspiring, and some great tips and techniques there. Stephanie, have you got any thoughts with this question?
I would say I love going after these two because
Yeah, I do.
they
Well,
just
it's,
hit, like, I mean, it's brilliant.
I
Like, you
feel
make my
uplifted.
life very easy. you hit on all the one thing I mean, you guys hit a lot on, like, spot on. The one thing I would add is my mentor, who's one of the most amazing man that's helped me through some super challenging and dark times in my career, said to me, there's no bad decisions. So when you're thinking about your career path, there's no bad decisions, they're all experiences. And it's what you glean from those experiences, good and bad. So the bad helps you grow, the good helps you realize your value. I think what Henny, what you were saying, which is really important, so that when you have the good experiences, you build on those to know what you can bring, how you can bring it, and where you offer a skill gap, right? So, you hope that when people are building diverse teams, there's a bit of everything, and that special secret sauce that you can bring, that's only you. And don't let those experiences that were negative just absolutely define who you are and where you think you're going. So apart from everything I think Olivia touched on as well, just be kind to yourself. So you've got a long road. I'll never forget as well, I was sat in front of a boss, this was years ago, and he said, what do you want to do next? What do you want to do next in your career? And I said, well, I mean, can we boil the ocean? I mean, that's a very open-ended, wide question. Like, what do you want to do next? And the thing he said after was, he said, how many more years do you think you have working? And I said, I don't know, maybe, 15, 20, or who knows? And he said, well, if you think like the average role is 3 years, you maybe have 6, 7 roles to choose within, depending on how long you want to stay. And I mean, and obviously your life circumstances can change, but it was kind of that moment of oh my God, I really only have 6 or 7 choices left, but there's so much I want to see. There's so much I want to do. There's so much of the business I haven't experienced yet. So, just kind of be kind to yourself in knowing that the organic journey of life that you're going to be on, it's going to have its ups and downs and sideways and backwards and all that's in between. And it's just, how you kind of make sure you keep to your core and all the things that you guys all touched on that need to repeat.
And how you're kind of thinking above, keeping yourself above that line, so to speak. No, thank you. And I completely, agree. I think that the bad experiences element is a really key piece to take away as well from what you said, because so often or not, people can get so dwelled and into the negative, whether it's an experience, a situation, whatever it is, but it's kind of what shapes you. And if you can come out of it and look at it from a positive perspective as to, actually, I'm not going to learn that from a textbook. I now know what not to do, or you just learn from so much. It kind of shapes you for who you are in the future. And if you can look at that from a positive perspective, and channel it in the right way, I think it can help. But look,
I love that. It's a mental mind gym, because when you go to the gym, you challenge your muscles, and that's how they grow, right? It's the same with your mind.
And that, that's what when Louise, when you're talking about the call we had before with everybody, and we could talk forever, it's because it's I think, Henny, you were bringing up, your gratitude journal, your meditation, everything. It's a marathon, not a sprint. You're going to the gym every day, but you're going to be the best version of yourself. You're not going, obviously, it's just muscles. You're building muscles, but in a more mental capacity.
Mental fit.
Your routine.
I love it.
Great.
Wow. Well, we've gone over. We've gone over the time. We didn't cover everything, but it's been absolutely brilliant. Boundaries and non-negotiables are so critical. Thank you, Jodine. Completely agree. Simon's popped in here. Thanks. A good session. Thanks for joining us as well. And Francesca, be kind with yourself is just brilliant. And it is so true. It's so easy not to do as well. Like when you're in that kind of lull, you've just got to mindfulness, take a self-reflection, bit of time out for just you to think about. We had a session in our business not long ago where we were delivering something to the group, but we opened it up with, well, what's been your winning highlights in life from a personal or a professional, just one win. And it's because sometimes when you're having that lack of confidence or self-belief, and having a wobble when it comes to presenting or whatever it is, and then you look back and think, well, actually, 3 years ago I did this and I absolutely nailed it. So it's sometimes you just got to have that bank of really positive thoughts in your head where you smashed something, and that's what you go back to and refer to, that you need to from an uplifting perspective. So I love this. I think the four of us could talk about this all day. So
we should just go on tour. We can just maybe Andrew can get us a little touring session around the different organizations.
But thank you so much for everybody that's joining here. I'm just thank you for being patient as well whilst we wrap up. Hannah Brown as well joining us. Well, we got loads. Vikram, really insightful. Thanks. So as usual, this will be distributed out through Lift Up LinkedIn page. It'll just be available to anybody that you want to distribute, share. If you think that this is an experience that other people can listen to, we have thousands that often rewatch the live broadcasts. So, by all means, share. And if you're not part of the Lift Up community page, you can join that through this link or through finding us on the Lift Up LinkedIn page. But I think that's it for now. I'm going to say massive thank you to Olivia and Henny and Stefanie for joining us as our key speakers today, and for the audience for dialing in. We've had a real global reach, so thank you very much for taking the time, and bye for now. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Bye.